So welcome back to another episode of DM DIY. In this episode we're going to be showing you how easy and simple it can be to install a DIY gravel driveway, right? Now there's a lot of different ways to line the gravel driveway, you know, as a retention for the gravel. We're choosing to go with these landscaping timbers. One, because we got them for free. That's about the only reason, no, but these are going to work really good rather than that thin metal, because you can't drive over the metal. You can't do much with that, with those tiny thin metal. You know, you can get like railroad lumber would be better, those big square pieces, you know. But yes, we're gonna get these landscaping timbers. We got some 3/8 inch rebar. We're probably gonna do a foot, maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet of rebar. We're gonna drill holes in that timber, a foot inside on each side of the 8 foot landscaping timber, and then we're gonna hammer it in, and it's gonna lock it in place, right? And then we're gonna come get some gravel dump, spread it out, and that's about it. Now you could probably do maybe a landscaping barrier underneath. We might end up doing that, just depending on, once we do a little bit more research, you know, we'll see if that's gonna be necessary, or even if, you know, if it's cost effective, right? But we're gonna be pouring about 4 inches of gravel, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, just depending on, you know, the slope of the area. Over there you can see it's a little bit high. We're gonna have to dig that out slightly. And yeah, we got some rose bushes beside it. This is gonna really look beautiful. So she's going in marking all the spots. You done marking? Cool.
Yep.
All right, now I'm gonna get drilling, and then we'll get cutting on that rebar and get hammering, and then get graveling. Okay, and now I'm measuring 18 inches, foot and a half, and cutting from there. So we got our sticks. Now let's we're gonna go ahead and dig some of the timbers under them and kind of level them out before we start hitting it in. That way they're not all wonky. So we're gonna get a shovel and get that. Okay, so now we're just gonna be making really small adjustments. Like right here, I see that's a little high, so I'm gonna go knock that off ever so slightly. Roll it back, see how it looks. Yeah, I think that's good. So that one right there, I'd say, is ready to go. But the strings get in the way. That one right here is good. This one we need to knock some off where that ant pile is. Is that the ant pile? So we ended up buying some rolls of the landscaping fabric for about, I think maybe it was $28, something like that. They came with stakes in the package as like a kit, and they worked good, but I think there might have been better alternatives for the stakes. The stakes they came with were very cheap. I ended up having to make my own makeshift stakes as well, which, you know, obviously weren't that good. They didn't come with enough, and they weren't very robust. So find, you know, maybe some aftermarket stakes when you're using the landscaping fabric, and you're gonna be in a lot better shape. You'll see later why that, you know, why it became a problem. Don't want to spoil too much. Even the wind, you know, we came back on a different day to do the gravel, and a lot of the landscaping fabric was a little battered and torn from the wind. Okay, so we have gotten our gravel dumped for our driveway. We laid down our landscaping fabric, as you can see. We'll go over there and show you. And, it's not the thickest landscaping fabric. In reality, this fabric is actually pretty thin. You know, it's ripping pretty easy, and I'm sure after a couple years it will be rotted away. However, this will give the gravel time to kind of settle, compact down, and provide its own layer against the grass. The grass is going to get in no matter what. Whether you got a concrete driveway, it doesn't matter, right? You've seen people who get cracks in their concrete driveway and then all of a sudden there's weeds in it and stuff, you know, just, it happens. You want to delay it, obviously, you know, the onset, inevitable, whatever, but, you know, it's good to try and do what you can. So, yeah, we got the landscaping fabric down. 20 cubic feet of gravel for a 75 by 20-ish, 4 inches thick gravel driveway. We tried spreading it with rakes, very tiresome. Now we got the old trusty dump cart that we all know and love so well. We're gonna fill it up, bring it over, make a dump, and do that until we can't hardly breathe anymore. Yeah, this is gonna be terrible. It seems to be the ongoing slogan for this homestead. We like hard work. You know, we have neighbors who have tractors and stuff. We don't want to bother them. We'll just do it this way. And a lot of the times they end up, you know, seeing you work really hard and end up wanting to help anyway. So, but yeah, you know, sweat equity they call it, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We'll get a time lapse set up, and the fruits of our labor will come to fruition. And I can hear the question now, right? Dylan, why didn't you just get the dump? The guy who was dumping the gravel to spread it. Just have him dump it on one side and then run the truck from one side to the other, spreading it as he drives. Well, it was way too wet, and I think a lot of the people who take on a project like a gravel driveway are going to come to find out that their area is way too wet, unless they're doing it maybe in the summertime when it's really dry. Their area is going to be way too wet for the really, really heavy you know, dump truck to drive on. My dump driver even got one of his tires into the side where, you know, off the road in the dirt, and was looking like he was about to get stuck. So, yeah, anyone building a gravel driveway in the wet season probably needs it for a reason. It's way too wet. So expect to have all your gravel dumped in one pile and you spread it yourself, unless you want to wait for the summer. Okay, so the entirety of the driveway is spread, and although I'd like to tell you we did it all by hand, we did not. So our neighbor actually saw us out here sweating, working hard, and wanted to come help with his massive tractor, and we weren't going to say no to that, right? You know, he's wanting to help out, so, you know, one of those things, right? Got lucky. We did end up doing about a third of it, though. You know, the video cut of the time lapse, it, you know, we didn't get the whole footage or whatever, but that's all right. But yeah, you know, here we are a couple of weeks later, and everything's spread. It just rained really good. It's really dense and compact in some areas because this gravel is crushed concrete, which I prefer better over the pebbles anyway, because the pebbles have a tendency to slide on one another, whereas the gravel has a lot of rigid, you know, angles and edges that'll lock together, and that's really what you want, you know. But and, you know, reusable, recyclable, whatever, you know. Yep. So I'm gonna get the truck and just drive over it a whole bunch. One of the cons of our neighbor helping us out, which, you know, beggars can't be choosers, but you know, we had all the tarp laid out, and, you know, he had this massive tractor with wheels that were, you know, 50 inches around or whatever, and it ripped up the tarp in some places and pushed it up, which, you know, like I said, I'm not complaining about it, but, you know, it's just one of those things. So you're gonna see the tarp pulled up in some areas, and, you know, I'm sure that might have weeds in those areas or whatever. But, you know, while we're building the shed and getting the house ready and all that, this is fine, right? I'm gonna flatten it out, and then maybe in a year from now we'll get another 10 cubic feet and dump it on there. But, you know, this is gonna work for now. Just drive over it, and then, you know, we're gonna see the low spots and everything, and maybe kind of even it out, and then okay. So just did a good spreading on it. I got a lot of the extra gravel on the bottom and the top, and kind of just used it, you know, intermediately around where there were some low spots. And I will say, having it really wet was kind of a good thing in a way, because now I'm able to see, due to the reflection of the water, where it's pooling, where it's low. It wasn't as easy to judge, you know, finding the Y, as maybe some might call it in the golf community, right? You know, it was a little bit difficult to see the high and low spots, but, you know, once it got real wet, it was a lot easier. And you know, we did get probably within the last couple of weeks at least 10 inches of rain. You know, we had a rain gauge out here, and every time I come out, 3-4 inches, you know, in the rain gauge, 2 inches here, 3 inches there, every couple days. So, you know, the ground is just incredibly saturated, and our drainage ditch to the right of the driveway helped an incredible amount because all the water coming this way was able to go down to the bottom of the property. And really a lot of the water over here too would kind of slope down that way and drain out. You can see though where it's high right here and then low right here, the water pools. Over there is a bit of a bowl, the water's pooling, and over there is a bowl, the water's pooling. Right there kind of, but it's super, the gravel's really, really thick up top. I'd say at least like 8 inches in some spots. And down here it's as low as 2 inches. And that's just due to the way it was spread out. You know, we had somebody come and do it and really just did the grunt work for us. You know, taking a bucket here and dropping it here, taking a bucket here, dropping it there. And, you know, rather than taking that and making that really thin to have these other spots a little bit less thin, I think it's best to just go ahead and get another 10 cubic feet and just really hammer in the low spots to where they will pool when it's wet, but there's going to be so much gravel above it really won't matter, you know. And I think I will eventually do a French drain right here, right at the end of the driveway, to where a lot of the water will come down, go into the French drain, and then irrigate out through the irrigation ditch. That's probably the best move, and that way it'll stop the water here right before it gets to the shed and then get it on out. That's the best way to do it, I think. And yeah, you know, is it perfect? No. But is it functional? Absolutely, 100% functional. You saw me driving on it. It was kind of getting agitated in these areas and kind of mucking up, similar to stepping in sand and sinking down. But once it dries, that's going to become literally as hard as concrete, you know. I mean, well, I say it literally because it is concrete. Concrete aggregate, or whatever you want to call it. Enough talking though. Thanks for watching. You may have seen Lindsay in the time lapse getting a bunch of wood and putting it over on the side. We are still building the fence. I don't know which video I'm going to release before the other, but I will say the DIY fence video, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. Really sturdy and expensive cattle fence we're building. We could have cheaped out and went a bunch of different ways with it, but just I think it's cool, you know. So go check it out and see our take on a cattle fence. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.